Hello, everybody. Welcome to Crypto Coin Mindset. I'm Keith, and as always, I'm here to help you get your mindset on crypto. You're about to watch one of the guest speakers from the Free State Bitcoin Digital Asset Conference, which was held in New Hampshire on September 1st, 2024. Now, I just want to preface this video by saying I went ill-prepared to this conference. First time I had ever been to this conference, but I went ill-prepared. I should have had a separate Wi-Fi connection. So the video itself is not too great, but the audio works fine. So I hope you enjoy this video from one of the guest speakers at the Free State Bitcoin Digital Asset Conference.
But let me tell you, I admire what you guys are doing here. It's sorely needed in the Northeast. I feel like you guys are the only free state. All the other states, including Canada or Soviet states.
Thanks, sir.
So I commend what you guys are doing here. I love the movement. I kind of see New Hampshire as my second home. So yeah, I can just keep doing what you're doing. And we need to get more free-minded individuals to New Hampshire. We have too close of a legislature that's 50-50, and we need to push it more towards the freedom side. So we need to get more libertarians, more freedom-minded individuals move to New Hampshire. So that was my intro before my intro. So I'm like telling people what I'm going to tell them. Then I tell them what I told them I'm going to tell them. So here's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to do an introduction of who I am, because of who I am will inform you of why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm executive director of Citizens Sound Money. I'm going to explain what is sound money versus what fiat is. There was a question earlier today of what fiat was. What is an asset-backed digital currency, and what is tokenizing real-world assets? Why is sound money a foundation of freedom? My talk is the sound money movement, a foundation of freedom. We're going to be discussing that today. How can we bring freedom back? And then I'm going to promote our membership program and then open up a conversation. My goal is to talk about 15 minutes and then open it up. I don't know. I have a lot of things I want to talk about, though. So who am I? Again, my name is Daniel Diaz. I'm a first-generation Cuban American. By a show of hands, how many of you are immigrants from a communist country or first-generation immigrant? Does Massachusetts count?
Yeah.
It doesn't, but I'll make it count. That works. All right. Yes. All right. So those of us who were either first generation or immigrated from communist nations, I mean, we were told stories about how our families were persecuted, how our land and property was taken, and everything we dread in this state and across the country, freedom-loving Americans, we lived or our family lived through. So the nightmare that might happen in this country has already happened around the world. 1/3 of the world was communist, and our family suffered through that. And that story is why I'm here today. My family left Cuba in 1965. The precipice that led to that was the communists took over everything, took over our family's businesses, lands, farm. And my grandfather, I don't know if you know this, but every communist state has a communist informant at every floor and every block of the whole nation. And they are the communist police. If they see something that isn't in line with the party, they inform the communist police and they make you disappear. My grandfather went to a butcher, paid extra money for rations. The communist informant on the block told the police they arrested my grandfather. He was released immediately after being released. He's like, we need to go. We have to go right now and go to Miami. If it wasn't for friends and family in Miami, they would have been on the streets. Because when they got to the Atlanta airport, they confiscated everything except for the clothes in the back, their watches, their gold, their luggage. And when they got to Miami, we had some friends and family put my family up in a single studio apartment. And my grandfather, who had a construction company, had to start all over with nothing. Had to start pouring cement in Miami to make sidewalks. So this was 1965. And my family told me about how they survived because, he just started at the bottom of the construction company. My grandmother would go to a grocery store called Sedano's, buy pies, cut the pies, and sell it for like 25 cents a nickel, whatever it was, to make extra money. So fast forward about 2 decades, my grandfather was a workhorse. He went from being at the bottom of the construction company to eventually buying the construction company, selling it in the 80s when he was in his 50s, retired early and left an inheritance for my family. So America, I grew up hearing about how Cuba was great. The Cuban peso, obviously tied to the dollar with gold, was strong. The economy was strong. It was all taken away. Everything was taken from family. We came to America, and America provided the opportunities for my family to get back even more than what was taken away from the communist regime. So I promised myself at a young age of 16 that I'll never allow what happened in my family's country to happen in my country. So I dedicated my entire life, my life's mission is to make sure that happens, that America never goes down the communist path. So from the age of 16, I got involved in politics, running campaigns. I've been a political consultant in about a month, be 24 years. In between those 24 years, I went to grad school, became an insurance agent and a stockbroker, learned about finance in the fiat world. Took a sabbatical from politics for about a year when I got into Bitcoin. I was anti-Bitcoin. I heard about it in 2009, saw it on the news sitting at a restaurant. I was the state chair of Young Americans for Freedom in Florida in 2009. I was starting a chapter where we had a political event. I'm like, who the heck will buy this electronic money? Why? Like, how is it even money? You know, I had no idea at the time. So fast forward to when I really got asked to invest into Bitcoin. This was in 2020. I think it was March of 2020. Bitcoin had dropped to about $5,000 in Bitcoin, give or take. And my business partner at the time, it was during COVID. We had the car rental business. We had some extra cash. Like, we should buy Bitcoin. I'm like, absolutely not. It's tulips. There's nothing backing it. It's just all hype. And then she teamed up with my other buddy named Dan, who was a Bitcoin fanatic. Like, bro, you got to learn about it. I'm like, no. Months go by. So September, I was so tired of them talking to me about trying to buy Bitcoin. I'm like, fine. I mean, look, I don't want to hear about it anymore. Just to get away from me, I'm not going to buy Bitcoin. He said, bro, he called me. Let me show you 2 videos. After these 2 videos, if you're not convinced about Bitcoin, we will never talk to you about it again. I'm like, fine. I didn't even need to watch the second video. The first video was Don Tapscott, how blockchain technology is changing the world, the economy, and so forth. And it wasn't all the great things about the immutability and the strength of the security of the Bitcoin. What really got me was about two-thirds through the video. He's talking about how 70% of the world's population have tenuous titles and deeds, meaning they don't own the land and the property. The state owns it. They're just leasing it for 99 years, like the UK did in Hong Kong, right? And he's like, in Nicaragua, there were stories where the communists destroyed land title and deeds, put their communist friends' names on land titles, got in trucks with guns, went to the land, and like, hey, this is no longer your land. This is what they're going to get off. This is my friend's land. He's like, now imagine if we put titles and deeds on the blockchain. And that was click in my brain. I'm like, holy cow, it's immutable. You never delete it. 100, 200 years from now, you can prove who owned that land. I'm like, if blockchain technology existed in the 50s, when the communists took over, let's say we overthrow the communist regime, and in a few years, we go back and prove ownership of my family's land and businesses, and they get reparations to get that land back. And I'm like, blockchain technology can provide more freedom than any political activity of man, and provide economic, political, and individual liberty. So for me, blockchain technology was revolutionary. And I went from being anti-crypto to pro-crypto and pro-Bitcoin immediately. Within a month, I went down the rabbit hole, started mining. This was September, October. I started mining in November. By January, I started a crypto mining and blockchain consulting company. Like that. So that was my story into Bitcoin. Now, where does Citizens Money come in? All right. So I invested in some NFT projects where I doubled my money, and they provided a yield. I'm like, oh, this is great. Let me think about doing this too. But instead of giving a yield in Ethereum, I want to get a yield in Bitcoin and gold. And how do I guarantee that the NFTs that we produce never lose value? It was a major problem with NFTs in the day. And I called one of my development buddies, like, hey, is it possible to attach gold, hash G, to an NFT to guarantee that NFT always has a floor price? He's like, yeah, that's possible. So boom, there's my idea. Get an NFT, teach financial literacy and sound money principles to get around the Howey test. We heard about the Howey test earlier, because if you would get the NFT, take a quiz, learn about financial literacy, and if you pass the quiz, that's the only thing we go in Bitcoin. You actually put in effort, right? If there's no effort and you're making money passively, Everybody's Howard test. But now, if you only get paid Bitcoin and gold by learning financial literacy and educating yourself, boom, run the Howard test. But I didn't know anything about sound money. So I Googled, I'm like, who can help me with sound money? Well, there's an organization that says sound money. I reached out to Jim, Mary Ward. You guys know Mary Ward. They ignored me at first. So I emailed like 3 or 4 other times. They finally responded. And they were actually intrigued. They interviewed me. And that is where we started my relationship with Citizen Sound Money. Jim Forsyth said, "Hey," I'm like, "Hey, I need like education on sound money." And he's like, "Well, there's this thing called Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney. That series. How many of you heard of Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney?" No. Oh, it's one person over there. If you have not watched it, that series was such a paradigm shift for me. It completely changed my world and how I see reality. It's a 10-episode series. Every episode is about 30 minutes, except for the 8th episode. The 8th episode is about Bitcoin and blockchain technology and hash rate and a bunch of other things. That's an hour and a half. But all the other episodes talk about gold, silver, and sound money. And I'm yelling at the screen. I'm like, "How about Bitcoin? Bitcoin does that too." And they finally get the episode. They need to talk about that. But if you haven't seen it, it would educate you, and by watching that series, you'll know more about monetary policy and the history of money in within our own race, the human race, than 90% of Americans on the planet. So if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it. So what is sound money? The historical definition of sound money is basically gold and silver has a frequency. That's how they used to test it. You flick it with another coin, and you listen to the frequency of gold and silver. That's how you can tell if it's real or not. If it's fake, there's no frequency. It's a duck. What's the tungsten? Tungsten has the exact same atomic weight as gold. You can play with 24 karat gold, the weight exactly the same, look exactly the same, but when you flick a tungsten coin, that's it. Gold, 45 seconds, it'll just ring. It sounds like heaven. Silver is a little shorter. But I can demonstrate that later if you want. That's a traditional sound money because of the sound. But today we have 3 major characteristics of what money is. First is the medium exchange. Anything can be a medium exchange. Even this chair can be a medium exchange. It's nothing special. A unit of account. Well, you got $1, hundreds of pennies, $2.50 you take 100. Bitcoin, stats. Unit of account, gold, an ounce, grand. All right, fine. With quite a few things. But what makes something money is the third characteristic, a store value. The monopoly money that the Federal Reserve prints is not store value. It leaks that economic energy. Look, money is us exerting our energy, right? The entire universe is energy. It's us exerting our energy for a wage. And where we put what we receive for that energy that we exert is what is money. Money is supposed to maintain that energy we exerted for that wage. When we put in the dollar, we're instantly, every millisecond, as they print money, or currency, as a printing currency, we're losing our economic energy. We put in a Bitcoin and gold, we're either preserving it or growing it. I like to differentiate Bitcoin and gold, where Bitcoin is a wealth generating asset, while gold and silver is a wealth preserving asset. Now, that's where we get into asset-backed digital currencies. What is an asset-backed digital currency? It's a digital currency backed by a real-world asset, predominantly gold and silver. You have PaxG, you have Tether Gold, you have Kinesis Gold, Kinesis Silver, Low Gold and Silver. There's a bunch of companies out there now making gold and silver. And even Wisdom Tree has a gold token now. So gold, asset-backed digital currencies are there. I like using digital gold and Bitcoin. When Bitcoin, we got about give or take 9-10 months left of a bull market traditionally. If you look at the cycles of Bitcoin, when Bitcoin gets near that April mark, I'm going to be selling most of my Bitcoin and putting it in gold because it's going to at least be another 2-year bear market, right? So it's called wealth cycle. Put your money that you earn through the generation of Bitcoin into gold, preserve that wealth as Bitcoin goes down. Plus, gold is about to go on a major bull run here shortly, and we can get into that in the Q&A. But I explained what an asset-backed digital currency is, tokenizing real-world assets. I spoke at the Bitcoin Energy Summit back in, I think, March. I was at Bitcoin 2024, and there's a lot of talk about tokenizing real-world assets. It was talk about real estate. You can really tokenize anything, diamonds, rocks, shirts, whatever. You tokenize anything, and it represents basically a certificate, just like the old gold standard Bretton Woods. The dollar was a certificate of ownership that basically said that when you bring this to a bank or a treasury, when whoever has that note on demand, you get an ounce of gold when it's $20 an ounce. Federal Reserve was created. They created 60% more currency. Now it's $35 an ounce of gold. You lost 60% of your purchasing power when the Federal Reserve took over the currency. Thank you, Federal Reserve, jackasses. So why is sound money? Why is Bitcoin? Why is gold? Why is silver a foundation of freedom? Well, prior to the Federal Reserve and central banking, no government created currency or money. It was chosen by the people. We decided what we wanted to use as a medium of exchange, unit account, and a store of value. And 10,000 years ago, we saw some things in rocks that looked pretty, electrum, we didn't really know how to purify it. The Egyptians were great at purifying it. And gold became that store of value. The Lydian Empire was the first one to make a coin with a weight and measure, with a seal. And then for the next 5,000 years or 3,000 years, we used gold and silver predominantly as money. And every empire that accumulated gold and silver became the superpower of the world. You know when those empires collapsed? When they started debasing the currency. First, the Athenians, when the Spartans took over their gold mines, they started mixing copper, and there's stories from Aristotle and other people where they're talking about the flex coin, where it's no longer gold and silver. And that's where we kind of get Gresham's law. Gresham's law is bad money pushes out good money. What does that mean? When they stopped making silver quarters and dimes and stuff in 1964, you saw people starting taking the silver coins out in circulation. That's the bad money that is base metal pushing out good money. People would use that as a store of value and then use the worthless money for normal medium exchange and so forth. Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense, right? If something's worth more, you're not going to spend it. You're going to store that, preserve your economic energy, and then use the worthless money or the base metals to use it. So that is why, and that's part of the reason why it is a foundation of freedom. One, we the people chose it. The government doesn't print it into oblivion. And when the government gets into anything, especially money creation, and then they get rid of money, hoard it, and then give us monopoly money, well, that's increasing their power, and that is not freedom. That the entire economic system around the world today, every single economic department in every university in the country in the world, except for maybe 5 or 6 universities that have degrees in offshore economics, every single economics program on the planet teaches modern monetary theory, which is rooted in Fabian economics, the Fabian society, which are socialists and communists that were kicked out of the Soviet Union because they didn't believe in violent revolution. They believed in incremental socialism to achieve the communist state, and Stalin and Lenin didn't like that. So they killed the Fabian economists, so they fled to the UK, where there is a socialist movement and a communist movement there in the early 20th century. And they took over the London School of Economics. So some of the greatest economists that came to Bretton Woods, John Maynard Keynes is a Fabian economist, came to Bretton Woods along with the U.S. Treasury and wrote the original Bretton Woods Agreement before they actually met in Bretton Woods. John Maynard Keynes and the U.S. Treasury treasurer came together, and that's the precursor before they even went to Bretton Woods to agree on the gold standard. So how do we get back to freedom? We get back to freedom by bringing back sound money, making it legal tender. I have no hope in D.C. I think D.C. is a lost cause. But we're the only country in the world where our Constitution gives the individual states the constitutional right to make gold and silver legal tender. It's Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 of the United States Constitution. The first thing says states can't coin money. A little further down says, but gold and silver coin as tender for the payment of debts. That's in the Constitution. Unfortunately, it doesn't say Bitcoin can be legal tender. It only says gold and silver. So if we want Bitcoin legal tender, we have to do the fight with the federal government. I think that if the states try to make gold and silver legal tender, there will be an immediate challenge to that status because it's unconstitutional. Those states can't make money if they make gold and silver. I mean, they can make gold and silver, then that's only a saving grace. So that's how we bring freedom back. We're the only country in the world that doesn't have a two-currency system. Every other country has their local currency and at least one other. Like Argentina has like 5 or 6 other currencies. In Africa, they use a dollar, the euro, whatever's better than their local currency. We have been spoiled over the last almost 100 years to be the currency of the world by passing legal tender laws and making gold and silver and asset-backed digital currencies backed up under one of the gold and silver legal tender. We're now become more in par with the rest of the world having 2 currencies and having things priced in 2 currencies, which would be how much gold. And here's the funny thing: if you price something in gold, you don't actually need to do anything because gold goes up in value as the dollar's debased. But you do have to increase the dollar value because the dollar loses value. So those prices you see at the grocery store, if they were priced in gold, it would never change. But because it's in price in dollars, well, $1 trillion every 100 days, that's unsustainable. Heck, Jerome Powell said that the current deficit spending and printing is unsustainable in the United States. This is the head of the Fed. Said what we're doing and what they're doing is unsustainable. They're admitting it just a few months ago. And for us to get our freedom back, we need to get real money back. Money that we chose. Money that can't be printed. And sure, they can mine it. But I have a theory, and I don't know if anybody can corroborate this, but the reason why the Federal Reserve tries to keep inflation around 2% is because that's about the same inflation rate of mining gold out of the earth. In fact, Greenspan and Volcker purposely adjusted the interest rates after we detached from the gold standard to mimic the price of gold and the inflation rate of gold. The fiat kings are trying to mimic real money. They failed, obviously, because of runaway debt. So, how can you help? Well, we just launched our membership program. I passed out a flyer. If you want to get involved in the sound money movement, which we have trademarked, and there's a TV show that we're producing as well, named the same as my talk, the Sound Money Movement and Foundation of Freedom. It's going to be on the Discovery Network, the Science Channel. We were trying to do it in the 4th quarter, but they just took too long to get the sponsors for the show. So it's going to be either Q1 or Q2 of next year. And we actually have a sizzle reel that we're almost done with. And by joining Citizen Sound Money as a member, we get a list of freedom-loving sound money advocates. You join. Once we get a certain amount of people, we don't know if it's 100 or 50 members, we'll appoint a state chairman. We'll then start bringing grassroots training to teach you how to lobby and how to be a citizen activist, because the number one way to influence legislature is money. You have a PAC, you donate maximum amount to each candidate. It's a legal way to bribe people. But that's just how it is. That's just how the world works. If you didn't know that, rude awakening. Money makes the politicians go around, I guess. The other way is a lot of angry citizens, like Eric Brakey told me earlier before my walk. Hey, Eric. So those are the 2 ways. We have a super PAC to try to get, we can't donate directly to elected officials, but we do have a super PAC called the Economic Freedom PAC. And the purpose of that PAC is to support our sound money advocates and keep them getting elected. And for those who are typically in leadership, because we were, with our partners, we lobbied in 27 states last year with sound money legislation. Of those 27 states, only 6 states passed some sort of sound money legislation, whether it was get rid of capital gains, sales tax, or actually making gold and silver legal tender. The only state that made gold and silver legal tender was Louisiana. They're the 6th state in the union to do that. And the reason why we failed in the other 19 states, it always comes down to one person. It's either the governor vetoing the bill like they did in Idaho. It's either the Senate president that blocks the bill from being heard or trying to kill it like they did in Florida. Or it's the Speaker of the House who just, I don't know, hates gold or silver, like in Missouri. Lied to our face last day of session, said they were going to bring it up. We had the votes. We whipped the votes. We had a supermajority, and we just killed it. So what we're going to do with the super PAC is we're going to raise money. And if these people are still in power when we lobby next time, we're going to run people against them. Or we'll just support our sound money advocates like Keith Amon and Yuri Polozov. They were the sponsor and co-sponsor of the Sound Money Act here in New Hampshire. So that's what we're doing. Look, our mission as Citizens for Sound Money is to promote the use of sound money and to protect people's rights to do so. We promote it by sharing gold, silver, Bitcoin with people, explaining how that works. And we protect it by using legislation, having a super PAC, and trying to defeat the enemies of sound money and freedom. So that concludes my talk for the most part.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that video. And if you want to see all the videos from the Digital Asset Conference, check out this playlist right here. In this playlist, I'll have all the videos from all the speakers from the Free State Bitcoin Digital Asset Conference in New Hampshire. So click on this playlist and I will see you there.